Are things too like locked down there right now?
No,
Everything's
the
fine.
lockdown is finished.
Uh-huh.
While I was here, I was like, well, I should take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
I am renewing some documents that I'm doing here, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm up to. Give me 1 second. Let
Yeah.
me pick up my
I'll
phone, and I'll be right back.
that sounds good. So, hey everyone, for everyone who's watching, we're live. I am just gonna hit the intro thing while Ernesto's going to get his phone. And yeah, we'll get right into it. Hey, perfect timing. So, hey everyone, welcome to another wonderful installment of Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. I'm joined by the awesome as always Ernesto Contreras of Dashcore Group, business development manager for the Latin America region, but honestly, part of much more than just that. How are you doing, man?
Hi, Joel. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, we made it. It's Friday. It's
Yeah.
great to be here. I should be having a beer, but I'm gonna just do water for now.
Yes, we'll save that for the end of the show. There's something special I'm saving for that. But
Cool.
just before we get into all the cool stuff, I just want to remind everyone to like and subscribe right now because sometimes people forget to, smash for dash as they call it, smash that like button. And of course, there's the Crypto Live super chat where you can go to cointr.ee/the desert lakes and then you type in a little message and you leave a little bit of a dash donation or other coin. But I mean, if there's a dash podcast, let's be honest, it'll be mostly dash. And then it'll show up and I'll read it live. And just so you know, Cointree's been probably used more than its users and its creators anticipated. So it's under a lot of load. So sometimes it takes a little while for the message to show up. So don't wait for like the last 10 minutes of the podcast to ask a question and then it just doesn't go through and I have to like live tweet, answer it later. But yeah, anyway, that's just like all the good stuff. So first off, Ernesto, how I know the Dash developers have been under crazy pressure, and especially were last month. It's just like the deadline. Can we get it out by the end of the year? Can we get it out? And I've heard, people disagree on like, oh, well, we should just take our time, and oh, but we need to have something out, or a price is going to crash, and just all that kind of stuff. Has it been the same on like the business development front?
Yeah. Well, it's it's really interesting to see how the different parts of the team work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our work has been very much to go and find some opportunities where we can get some real usage.
Yeah.
And, I think we've managed to understand that, out of the 4 or 5 things we said some time ago, we found that there looks like the more promising are trading
Mm-hmm.
with FastPass and Venezuela because of all the issues that Venezuelans have for paying and for receiving money and for moving money.
Yeah.
So, unlike a tech uh, product that you ship something and then there's this big update and things
Mm-hmm.
kind of start from zero again, and you have version 0 or version 1. We've been continuously working on some smaller, other bigger projects. So I think the big change for business development was probably 2.5 years ago when we
Mm-hmm.
defined the strategy and we started working on it. And then we said, yeah, well, for example, cannabis didn't pick up as much as we thought it would. So,
Yeah.
you drop that one and you continue working on the others. So yeah, the pressure is continuous for the business development team. And, we every time we were preparing for a quarterly, we're like, okay, how many integrations did we release last quarter? And we just measure ourselves against what we did before. And we're always trying to make sure we have at least the same amount and bigger or better integrations. So
Yeah.
it's different ways of working, but it's great because they complement each other.
Yeah, that's fun to see. basically it's like Dash is like a natural resource as opposed to a business. But no one just like wants a natural resource. They want to know what they could do with it. And so it's funny to see like rather than just tailor a product behind an audience, like the Dash network itself is not a product. Like the apps, the ability to transact can have a product element. But it's kind of funny to see. So like as you mentioned, the cannabis thing was like a huge selling point for Dash for a while because cannabis providers were having a hard time making payments and things like that. And then of course the Dash network put a lot of money into Alt 36, was very promising, had a lot of good stuff going, and there was just a lot of delays and other issues with that. And as far as I'm able to tell, in the end, they basically turned into a using Dash as a payment rail rather than accepting Dash directly for various, regulatory or partner reasons. And as far as I know, they're still operating. I keep on seeing posts from them saying, "Oh, sign up for this, do this," and like as far as I know, they're still operating. They may or may not still be using Dash, and I mean, if you have public information on that, you can share it. But if not, I understand. But
Yeah.
it's like it just seems like also the regulatory environment changed quicker where there are some banks that are willing to work with cannabis in the US, and it's not that like golden opportunity anymore. It's still, it's probably still is worth pursuing, but you just have to pivot.
Yeah, and it's all about those decisions that you make when you're selecting where there's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Dash is second to none for paying with crypto. So you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, where is there a payments problem that I believe can be solved with Dash? So we said, the legal cannabis industry, but then when you start implementing, and Out 36 is one of the many opportunities that we saw. You start realizing that there's some issues that you didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
The banking, whether we like it or not, at one moment or another, you need to connect to the regular banks.
Yeah.
And banks are like, well, there's this risky industry that is working on top of this other risky industry.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them just we're not comfortable with all the work. So All 36, as far as I know, keeps working and they're developing more products and features.
Mm-hmm.
But that is an opportunity that we at DCG saw that wasn't as straightforward as we initially thought, and that's why we took it off of our focus and are working on others that do not have such big friction and limitations to get real traction.
Yeah, and that also reminds me of I did a video recently where I basically was talking about utility in cryptocurrencies and why it's not always valued by the market like it should be. Because usually when there's like a frustration is when you expect something to be some way and it's not. And a lot of people go to an easy default answer, which is, it's people are stupid or something like that. It's always more complicated than that. And basically I went into why something might, like, for example, you might say, oh, we have the ultimate digital cash solution. Everyone should want this. But if everyone just wants to trade and it doesn't really help with trading or doesn't help with trading because the exchanges haven't onboarded, fast pass stuff yet, then it's like, well, is it really that much of an advantage for those people? Or it's like, it's great for payments, but there's volatility and there's the extra onboarding of like, you have to buy the stuff, and then the QR code. There's too many things. And even though it's better, it just doesn't end up working out. And that reminds me of Ryan Taylor is a payment space veteran and he understands stuff like that the crypto people don't really get. And he's been, let me put it this way, I like to see failure sometimes because it doesn't mean you try something it doesn't work, but every time you try for something, you get a little closer to what really works. And like Ryan understands that retail payments in the US and first world is a huge market. Even though it's like everyone's like, those people don't care about their, we'll just focus on Venezuela or something. But no, it's a huge option. And like I've seen a few different things. Like for example, the eGifter partnership, which made Dash a lot, first Bit Refill and then the eGifter partnership that made Dash a lot more usable, and that was great. It didn't quite it didn't quite get us all the way there. I don't know. I don't think it was supposed to be honest. I think it did great, but then it's like, okay, well then people want to save money more than just that. So then let's go to rewards.com and try to get that to work. And then we saw some frictions associated with, I mean, it's a very long story as well, but we saw some frictions associated with getting regular retail users to try to use crypto in their regular app. And that was just kind of a head scratcher. And now we get to the CrayPay thing, which seems a lot like Bitrefill and eGifter and rewards.com. It's like you see bits of it in all of that, but it's like everything that didn't quite get all the way there. Now I'm starting to personally feel that this could be maybe not but it could be. It could be what makes regular people be like, I'm going to buy Dash because this is great.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, we defined the strategy a few years ago, and the strategy is, Venezuela, trading, a little bit of remittances, and esports. But something that we always keep an eye out for is what is that next unicorn, where even though it doesn't fit one of the previous categories, we can participate and make an impact. So that's why you'll see us, looking into this type of things, and CrayPay just fitted one of those. It's got a very big base of merchants where you can start spending your Dash. It's got the possibility for the end user to get a discount. We know there's quite a few cryptocurrency and Dash users out there that want to use some of their crypto, but with the high fees that if you want to do a transaction in Ethereum right now, it's about $6 to $10 a pop, and Bitcoin is about $6 also if you don't want to wait too much. So it only makes sense to use those cryptos that are feasible for payments, and Dash is the one in top. So CrayPay just clicks all those boxes, and when we found about them, it just made sense to move forward, and they offered a white label or a specific Dash branded app that's going to benefit them, because they'll be able to get some of the Dash users to use their system, and it'll benefit Dash users because of all the features that we just spoke. So CrayPay, very, very exciting, because it means that we can put cryptocurrency to real use.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have been using a CrayPay style, that's been big in the crypto world, because it's hard to get merchants to accept crypto in the first world, and it's also easy to get gift cards on board for some reason, and that seems to be getting easier all the time. And so I was using what was it called, GIFT back in the day for Bitcoin, back when Bitcoin worked well enough that they didn't even require confirmations on that. And so I do my little, I buy a gift card right before I go and, check out and stuff. And so I've been doing this for years, and I've been seeing the progress of all this. And I used eGifter before eGifter ever used Dash, because eGifter was the first, also when Gift started requiring one confirmation, and then I have to wait an hour or so to buy some clothes or whatever. eGifter didn't for a while, and they let you enter precise amounts, not just within $5 increments. And so, for example, I remember going to Dunkin' Donuts and buying a coffee and a sandwich. It was like $5.67, and I put $5.67 in and bought the gift card. And it was kind of slow that day at the coffee place, because but it turned out well, because I was able to just literally buy exactly what I wanted and pay, and it was right there. And then of course all the Bitcoin issues hit, and I have, and just my honest opinion, and obviously these aren't my partners, so I don't have to worry about talking smack. eGifter works great, and I appreciate. I don't think eGifter works well enough at the point of sale to where you go to the register and say, how much is it? And then you can just get the exact gift code and pay without holding up the line behind you. It takes a little while to load. It's okay. You can do it with Dash. You can do it, but it's a little slower. Now, Bitrefill works really well with that, but not perfectly. Like, one thing is, I don't know if it's just when you have an account with Bitrefill, but now there's a step of when you buy, it goes to your cart and you have to go check out from your cart and pay it. And so it's like, if I'm going to the burrito stand and I want to pay, I have to like, all right, 10, 12. All right. And then it's like maybe 30 seconds or so and I get it. It's still not that bad, but like if I'm like ready for it, it's still like a little bit of friction. But then seeing the CrayPay, the way it works, it just takes out that extra little step. That's number one. It's just like, and those, if you shave 3 seconds off the experience, that is huge. 3 seconds is not that huge that you think about, but it is. So that's the first thing, is it just shaves that time off. The second thing is not having to deal with rewards points going back and forth, where from my understanding with CrayPay, you just don't pay as much. You just get the discount right away. And that's a huge improvement on experience. And then the third thing, as far as I've been told, geolocation, where you don't have to be like, all right, I'm going to go out shopping. Where around here? Let me look up each store on Bitrefill to see if they're there. Oh, they aren't? Okay, never mind. Where you actually get to see, there's a place right here that takes it. There's a place right there that takes it. And I can't wait to have like head-to-head comparisons with other cryptocurrencies about like show up in a random US city, pay with CrayPay with Dash versus try anything else and just, I can't even wait. But anyway, I've rambled enough on that one.
Well, everything that you mentioned is the typical way that technology evolves. There was this very cool technology brought, more than 10 years ago that was called Bitcoin. And then somebody said, well, what if I start paying things with Bitcoin? And then they integrated it into their system. And somebody saw that it could be improved. And there you saw, eGifter. And then probably the Bitrefill guy saw some ways that it could be better, and they integrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing is that slowly more and more of the friction is being removed, so that the retailer is basically receiving the dollars that they want. Because in places where there's no problems with the financial system, the retailers are not as incentivized to take anything different than what they take. They like new methods to accept payments, but they don't want to integrate into a bunch of things and, have to, deal with volatility or conversion or whatever. So they can focus on whatever they have. So I believe that what we're seeing with CrayPay is the result of that constant improvement of the payments landscape. And I'm really excited to see, next time I go to the US, so that I can, go to, I don't know, the Krispy Kreme, Barnes and Nobles, or IHOP, and just take out my CrepPay app and pay directly with Dash, because it's going to bring some very nice benefits, not only on discount, but also, if I'm an international traveler, I don't need now to change from my whatever currency to here. And if I can save, it looks like it will probably beat my credit card fees. So I'm sure we're going to find a lot of very nice use cases. And I'm really looking forward to CrayPay being out.
Yeah, me too. And on that subject, I heard rumor that it's within the next couple months, the branded app will be out. The Dash version will be out. Do you know if that's kind of accurate? Do you know any extra info?
Well, yeah, I know they're working on it as we speak, and because it's going to be a Dash exclusive brand, they're going to have to do some technical development and make sure they test it and stuff. So I think that time frame that you're saying is about right. I don't know the specifics, so don't take
Mm-hmm.
my word for it. But it should be out within end of Q1 or sometime in Q2. So yeah, it shouldn't take that long for it to be out, and for us and you to test it out and tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, and the Q1, Q2 specifically makes me think of probably around the time when platform reaches mainnet. And so obviously that's very dependent on what happens at the test net. I keep seeing bugs all the time getting squashed, so who knows. But uh, do you do you know any if any specific arrangements have been made for implementing usernames and stuff like that into the CrayPay app, or also does it even really matter? Like, because like the usernames are like user to user, a lot of transactions, and like if you just open up an invoice like paying bit refill, like I don't know how much a username setup integrating with that would really change, other than you just friend bit refill or whatever. Do you have any insight onto the identity side of the CrayPay app in the future?
Yeah, well, I don't have insights into how it could eventually integrate,
Mm-hmm.
but what I can tell you is that what we're doing in BD is we're making the list of all the partners that are technically first in line to potentially start using names, and we're reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, we're gonna have this functionality come out soon. How can you implement it to your platform?" So we're definitely whenever and we're not going to talk to CrayPay now because they're developing the basic
Yeah.
um, uh, ground, or the basic um, uh, platform for Dash to work. But as they release it, we're definitely going to talk to them and include them into the list of reach outs we make from BD, and ask them if they see whether this can help them. And I don't know if you saw that demo from Andy Freer. Um,
Mm.
there's work being developed right now where the merchant will
Mm-hmm.
be able to speak to the user.
Yeah.
So, if you're in the cashier and you're about to pay, and they'll be like, "Hey, what's your Dash username?" And
Mm-hmm.
you can hit me up at the desert links. So you would get a message in your Dash Pay app saying, "Hey, CrayPay or Krispy Kreme or whatever wants to invoice you for 3.85," and then there is the possibility then that this interconnection between the names of Dash Pay and the merchant, even if that is through something, there is the possibility that that could have value for some of the technical partners. So right now, I don't know if it's going to be possible, number one, or if it's valuable for them. But we're definitely going to evaluate as part of our platform development strategy from the business development side.
Yeah, which is great. It's one of those things with network effects. Like, for example, for me, the absolute number one FastPass integration, and by FastPass, I'm just going to say, like, it has instant send in it, for example. I don't know if BitRefill is considered a FastPass partner, but they do have instant send. Now, BitRefill is like the number one thing because it's the number one spot. It's one of the most useful services. And of course, if you want to use BitRefill, if you sign up for an account with the promo code DCN, I get some money if you do that. But that's a different story. No shilling right now. But because it's very useful, and when you pay it, it goes through right away, and you see that difference between that and the other coins really easily. And so already that's useful, but you're like, why use Dash? Well, because BitRefill works better. I mean, that's a great reason. It's not enough of a reason necessarily, but then you say, well, I use margin trade on this exchange and I do arbitrage and these couple exchanges it goes really fast on, and I'm like, okay, that's another reason. And just like network effects, the network effects of special features really help. And the same thing with usernames. It's like just like the I can send and receive from and to usernames and friend people and all that. That's a really good. That's just a really good experience. But it's like what just in this app. But then you start saying, okay, well, I can send some username on a different app. I can, someone has an Edge wallet and then they have a Dash username in there. And then that becomes just infinitely more valuable. And I feel like this is, so I have actually been testing out a few other username systems like ENS and FIO and stuff like that. And I'm not concluded with the investigation, but I don't think they're not the same as the Dash experience. They still feel like crypto. They still feel like old school. They still feel like, well, is this compatible with this? And it's just the Dash Pay app that I've been testing is just so easy to just send, receive, send, friend, person. It's just so easy. And that's like going to bump it to the next level so much. But then when you start to have a few key apps that as soon as you say, hey, sign up to Dash, get a username, and then you get a few key apps that you can use with it, then that immensely improves, the experience. And having CrayPay is like one of those things where, oh, you have this cool like Venmo thing and you can actually save money shopping everywhere around you.
Yeah, well, I think you might have just come up with an idea that we never thought of. So, taking a step back, when we thought of FastPass, we were having the professional traders in mind. So FastPass was, at least from the conceptual level, that Dash Core Group had for FastPass is, what does a professional trader need to have so they can prefer to use Dash for trading and not Litecoin or not or not, all these other coins that are maybe not, the ones that are not good for moving around.
Yeah.
So like we understood, yeah, you gotta have instant send or fast deposits, maybe one chain lock. But besides this, you need to have all these other components. Like some of these traders, they want to get loans on their crypto. So we need to make sure we have loans. Some of them, they want to have staking because they keep some of their trading in there. So you want to stake it. You need futures and you need, bots so you can create liquidity. You need tools so you can analyze the market. So we have Into the Block. So initially, FastPass is designed or is conceptualized as something for traders. What you're saying now is like, and this is really cool. I had not thought about it. How can we make those spenders' life easier? Yeah, we have Bitrefill, which is very good. We have the systems like eGifter and others. We're gonna have CrayPay. So yeah. Now it's probably a matter of putting on a board what things can you do and what things are still missing, and reviewing how a username can help them connect. But all of this will be like, we'll have more visibility on it once we can get to speak to some of these services and merchants, and they can tell us, oh, we have this problem or we see this opportunity, and from there we can start crafting the strategy. Because the big opportunity I see with platform is that it's kind of like a very big blank canvas, and you have these tools and you're like, cool, what can I do with it? And then it'll be up to whomever is seeing the canvas and the tool to start painting and seeing what's the masterpiece they can make. I'll give you an example. I was really, really, really happily surprised to read what README is doing with Minecraft. So he saw it and he started working with some NFTs, and he's exploring that path, which is something that I had not seen. So I think the work will be more than just trying to come up with ways of using it, and more like putting platform in front of people that can find different use cases, and something really cool is going to come up. I am sure, because possibilities are so massive.
Yes, the possibilities are indeed massive, and I do want to, I guess, before we start going to into further down the rabbit hole into things like stuff like DEXs and all that, but there are quite a few cool things. There are a few cool things that are being built already, and so if you just think about like the Dash Core Group side of things, then you come out the gate and you have a really attractive username wallet to send and receive and have contacts and all that. And then you have CrayPay that allows you to spend it anywhere. And that's like a great start. But there's a few other things that are, as far as I know, they're on testnet right now. There's a few other dApps that are on testnet right now in some way, shape, or form that could be huge and very timely. First off, there's a private messenger for Dash right now that uses the Signal protocol. And as far as I know, it's working on testnet. And so for anyone who hasn't paid attention lately, Signal is an encrypted messenger that Edward Snowden specifically recommends. And there's been a lot of people who have been deplatformed off of social media or have seen others get deplatformed and have just migrated off to something better. And also WhatsApp had this data sharing agreement with Facebook and basically just said, you're going, even though it's an encrypted messenger or whatever, you're going to have to share data with Facebook if you want to use this app. A giant exodus. And so like I saw some friend screenshot of the Signal app from like, there was just millions, like tens of millions of people just downloaded the app over the course of a few days. And Signal's not been working all day because there are just so many people using it right now. And so this is a hot commodity. The two problems. First off, Signal is still attached to your phone number. You still need to sign up with a phone number. And that's an identifying piece of information that's linked to your real world identity that I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with still. And the second thing is clearly the network load of all the servers they run has been too crazy to keep up with. Now, imagine Signal on Dash, which, by the way, exists on testnet right now. I'm not even kidding. I have not used it yet, but I will shortly and document that. But first off, you can use your Dash username to log in, where it's not associated with your real identity at all if you don't put, this is my real name in the username, right? And second, if it uses the Dash masternode network, if it uses platform to run on, then it should not need to handle all this extra load. It shouldn't have a problem because this very developed infrastructure is already there. And so you shouldn't have this have to wait for Signal, the entity, the nonprofit, to start spinning up new servers and all this kind of stuff if the network is just already out there. So that's a great thing. So now you start with username wallet, then you get CrayPay, so you can spend it everywhere, and then you can communicate encrypted with all your friends all under the same thing. Then there's a Dash social media network, a Twitter alternative called Djembe that I'm actually helping consult on for the UX to try to make sure it actually works really well. That's also, I've tested that quite out, and that has been in some of these demo videos. And of course, people being deplatformed off of social media. So if you have this set of apps that people just make the migration away from old school finance, they ditch their Venmo, they ditch their Twitter, they ditch their Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, and then they just migrate right over. Now all of a sudden, hey, guess what? They can use this cool uncensorable money anywhere, or in the US pretty much anywhere. Then they can do encrypted private messages, and they can do their social media stuff all under the same username scheme, all under the same network. That's starting to become something that I can get excited about and get other people excited about.
When you put it this way, it's very easy to see how undervalued Dash is, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many things that are in the pipeline and so many things that will be coming out soon.
Yeah.
That, the value of we don't need, 100 million people using it. Mm-hmm. We just need a few 100,000 people to hop aboard and start seeing the value of because when you described all these use cases, mm-hmm. I also imagine, how you can tie moving money, massively. It's not only I can call you, it's also, hey, here's the $3.86 I owe you, hey, let's bet 10 cents that the Yankees are gonna be out now in this next inning, and it's enabling a lot of things while keeping your security first. So it's just amazing. It's just really really great.
Yeah, and I have to say, I I'm not. I hate to say it quite like that, but I'm not that smart of a person. I can't see far out. I can't like, oh, this is the way things should be. I'm a very reactionary person in that I try to do what I believe in today, and then I run into a wall because I'm too stupid to see past it. Then I try to find a different way. And so, like, I always cared about making the world a freer place, and then I just hit into this. Oh well, money is just printed endlessly and there's hyperinflation and it just that's a huge problem for people. Why is no one doing anything about this? Then I hear about Bitcoin. I'm like, oh my gosh, this solves it. I'm going to do that. And then Bitcoin doesn't work. I'm like, what can I use? Dash. That works. I start using that. And more particularly, I ran into a couple of issues when I was running some sort of an activism project that used micro tips in Bitcoin to pay people. I ran into a couple big things, one of which was no human readable usernames to be able to do this kind of thing. And it was just so hard to tip people because I had to like, copy and paste his long address and all this kind of stuff and keep switching that address out. And then the second thing was like recurring payments for people to like do recurring stuff. And I saw some Dash Evolution video that talked about both of these things. And I was just like, that's it. I'm putting this on hold. I'm focusing on Dash until that's ready. And so me and Dash has been a byproduct of it just been like, what do I need to work on to move the next thing forward? And so now that usernames and contact lists are about to become a reality, I don't know. I have not heard anything about protocol level recurring payments yet, but I'm sure that's not going to be too difficult to figure out once, platform is out. I don't know. Have you heard anything of that?
Yeah, well, I you're going into very specifics, and
Yes.
I don't have the information. But what I believe I know is that if I register my name into Dash, so let's say I'm lucky to have at Ernesto,
Mm-hmm.
then you can set up a recurrent payment to at Ernesto. So it shouldn't be that difficult for a wallet or somebody to integrate. Making a payment every first of the month for whatever amount, and if they're sending it to at Ernesto, then at the back end side of the protocol, it's going to change addresses and make sure that I'm not recycling the same address, so it's not visible for neither the sender or the receiver, so we can be safer.
Mm-hmm.
But in the front, it should show all the time that you're sending money to at Ernesto or at Joel or at Desert Links.
Yeah.
So it's like we've been saying for the past 5 minutes, the possibilities are massive. And for me, the right way of growing this will not be that, us, the Dash teams, whether that's DCT or others, we come up with all the use cases. I think it's going to explode once we put this out in front of other people that are building stuff. More developers, more business people from partner organizations, old and new,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way an ecosystem will grow, and we'll see explosion of use cases because other people will also use their brain power to utilize the things that Dash has.
Yeah, that's for sure. I got two live super chats. One of them came too quickly after the other, so I missed displaying one of them. But Anonymous says taxation is theft. You're one of my peeps right there. And also, here we get one from One Time, which you can't see.
Cool.
It's kind of cut off at the bottom. But hi, Joel and Ernesto. Elon Musk tweeted, we should look at currencies from an information theory standpoint. Whichever has least error and latency will win. Sounds like Dash. So,
Yeah.
as far as error and latency, so error is exactly what we're trying to avoid with usernames and stuff like that. It's just like, what is this long thing here? All that kind of stuff, messing up addresses. And then latency is like how fast it moves. So when you talk, and I don't want to take a big dump on Bitcoin right now, but some of it I do kind of have to, because I didn't. So back in my day, when I was using Bitcoin, there was just one address format. And I remember Bitcoin Cash had the same, and then people were sending the wrong coin to the wrong thing, and they were having problems. And then they changed it to a cash address format, a different address format. And then everyone's like, all right, but now there's two addresses. I looked into Bitcoin lately, and there's like three or four different formats. So you got the basic address format, and then you also have like a partial SegWit address format. I don't really understand the difference between that and then a full SegWit address format. And then you could send to open up a Lightning channel. And so now we're like at 3 or 4, depending on how you calculate those. And from what I hear, Taproot, which they're trying to add, is going to be a 5th or an extra address type. And it's just like, wow, like how are people going to use this? Not only does Bitcoin take all day to confirm, depending on the day, but then it's like, now you got 5. That's like so much of extra error that you could introduce, and it's just so much latency. And it's like, what if you could just like, I'm going to send at Ernesto Contreras or Ernesto Dash or whatever it is. I'm just going to send it, and that's it. It just works instantly. Like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah. And, I've spent some time reading what some Bitcoin people say about Bitcoin. And one of the things they like about Bitcoin is how hard or not easy it is for Bitcoin to change. So, well, you have their Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will not change. And that has some advantages, because you cannot, suddenly start printing more coins. By default, that's the way it's set up. So and it looks like it's coming to the mainstream. The fact that, Bitcoin cannot be changed. So it's programmable money that was programmed. So that seems to be pretty good for storing money. But when you want to use it, that's not very useful. So I guess, and you were talking about looking into the future, what I say is that, Bitcoin will remain, with that use case of being a store of value or, another way of saving money. And then next to it, there's going to be other use cases. And one of them will be, well, I want to pay some stuff with it. I want to send money to a developer that helped me do something. I want to pay my graphic designer, but I need to pay the guy $7 because he made a small logo for it, or he made a post that I can use on my social media. So if I want to pay $7 to my graphic designer, and he's, in Venezuela, or he's in Mexico, or he's in Thailand, or he's in the US, of course I cannot pay $6 for the transaction fee. And, that's where the payments industry, massive amount of value will start flowing into Dash. And, with platform, we'll be able to do more than that. I'm really excited to learn more about NFTs. Now it's not only that, I can pay you $5. Now I can also have an ownership proof that, that deed that is right behind you and it's signed by Joel Valenzuela is really owned by me. So, there's many use cases where it's not only about, this rich guy buying $500 million worth of Bitcoin. There's other ways that money can be used. And like it was said there that, money is what was the right word? That it's error proof and what's the...
It's latency as well, low latency.
So yeah. So it's not only about storing and not being able to change. It's also about how can you use this technology for solving real issues that are beyond, saving millions of dollars. And that's where Dash is posed to solve many of the problems. And that's why I think we're going to be around for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to continue being valued because Dash really works. And it's great because I like talking to you because
Mm-hmm.
you are obviously somebody that uses Dash and uses crypto, and you're not just this guy screaming from behind a microphone saying, "Oh, I believe Dash is this or this is not that." You're testing it out, you're trying it, and you're saying it from your own experience. Hey, I tried using Bitcoin for buying coffee. I bought that gift card at $10, and there was a moment when it stopped working. So for what I wanted, it doesn't work. And it's the same thing. I've been in Venezuela for about 10 months already, and I've had the chance to use Dash and crypto for paying for stuff in different
Mm-hmm.
places. And it's only when you start using it that you start seeing the power of it. I
Absolutely.
went to I went to a place that takes crypto not so long ago, and my friend, he's not a Bitcoin maximalist, but he likes Bitcoin. He
Mm-hmm.
tried paying with Bitcoin, and I paid with Dash, and he had some issues because the wallet was stuck on some. His wallet was stuck because he had made a Bitcoin transaction like 20 minutes before that, and it was not confirmed yet. So
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't pay his part of lunch because he could not get money out. So he was like retooling it, and
Yeah, I've
it
been
took me
there.
like 2 seconds, and I was like, boom, hey man, are you gonna pay or not? Because I already paid everything. So when you start using it, you see that for some things Bitcoin is not capable, and that's great because you cannot be everything for everyone, and Dash is just going to be useful.
Yeah. So obviously, as you see here, 80 or 90 or electro, whatever that username means, says hashtag dash to 500, which by the way, that was sort of started by Demelza Hayes. Shout out to Demelza. Hi, Demelza. See you on the after party. About basically tweeting this hashtag to get a lot of people talking about dash to 500 USD because that puts it in a lot of people's brains. It's going to go there. And it kind of generates this like hype feeling and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of people. You're trying to pump it. Well, probably, but it happens. I mean, everyone does this kind of. Bitcoin should go to 100,000 at least, if not to 10. And Ethereum to 10,000. All these people might as well start with a little dash to 500. And the one before that, which I put on the screen before, but now is passed to this one, was any update on a Bitso integration or a partnership or anything to talk about on that domain at all?
Yeah, we've started talking to several exchanges in Latin America,
Mm-hmm.
including Bitso, and they all move at their own speed. Um,
Especially
yeah,
Mexican
because
speed.
well, it's not only about Mexican speed
Mm-hmm.
or Venezuelan speed, or it's just every exchange has their own priorities, and they're trying to expand to other countries now. So I'm not sure when we will get a response. What I can tell you is that we've reached out to them and other exchanges in South America, and we'll continue reaching out and seeing uh, more integrations. In the short term, we're focused on Venezuela, where we're growing more ecosystems and adding more places to spend. And trading is mostly focused on the U.S. and Europe, where we believe that once we get into um, some exchanges that are meaningful and move more volume, we'll be able to drive more usage of Dash as a trading tool.
Yeah, so that brings up two subjects. The first of which I'll go into, which is exchanges, specifically decentralized exchanges. And the reason this is a big thing is because, first off, a bunch of exchanges have had regulatory things they've done, such as delistings, although those are maybe not necessarily because they need to because of regulations. Some are they're afraid of regulators and they delist stuff like people they read headlines saying Dash is a privacy coin or get rid of that. And also just there's like FinCEN in the US has been proposing some interesting new regulations, to say the least, to make it a lot more of a burden to use centralized exchanges. So there's been a big move towards decentralized exchanges. And like Shapeshift, for example, said, I mean, they said, oh, it's because we believe in this stuff, which I don't doubt. But at the same time, in an interview with Naomi Brockwell, shout out to Naomi, you also do cool stuff. They did basically Eric Voorhees admitted that KYC on Shapeshift killed their business. And so now they're moving to a decentralized exchange. And so DEXs, it's like the DEX boom of 2021, right? It's kind of the big hype headline of that. Everyone's trying to make DEXs happen. The big difference with DEXs, other than they're decentralized, supposedly, is that all trades and stuff actually happen on chain. So when you're trading Bitcoin for other stuff, you're actually using the Bitcoin network, bloating it more, taking hours and spending a lot of money in fees and stuff. And as I said before, I was trying to use the Shapeshift DEX to shift some Ethereum tokens around, and I couldn't move anything. Even though I had like $12 worth of Ethereum, they said you don't have enough Ethereum to make this transaction. I'm like, and I'm waiting for the fees, and the fees go down. It's like a median transaction fee of like $3. I'm like, maybe I can do it now, but still no. So this is a fantastic opportunity for Dash, being cheap, scalable, and instant, to really show off why it's better. So what can you tell me about the DEX front, and if there's been any movement on that or any thoughts about that?
Yeah. Well, that's just like we spoke about the evolution of payments. We're also seeing that some of our partners are starting to evaluate what would happen if they open their own decentralized exchanges. And what I've seen, or at least what I know, is that it's still on a very early experimental phase. We've seen some coins spin up their own decentralized exchanges, but as far as I know, I haven't seen major exchanges doing something really, really massive. And I think it's because for it to work, there needs to be a lot of triggers and this smart contracts, and that is only possible in large scale right now with Ethereum. But Ethereum has these high gas fees that you mentioned. I was telling you a few minutes ago that I tested Uniswap, and I bought like, I think 0.5 ETH or 0.6, and I had to split it between ETH and DAI so that I could do some mining, some liquidity mining. And then after I put in like $300 worth of Ethereum, I left it there for about 2 months and I withdrew it. So in total, I earned about $20, but I had to pay about $30 in fees because I had to pay 15 to deposit and 15 to withdraw. So I see your pain, and
absolutely.
I understand that the decentralized exchanges look like a promising technology, but what I've seen right now is that it's still very early on, and hopefully we'll see a couple of our partners, our close partners, releasing some of them. But I have, that I recall, I don't remember any dates or even quarters where they said, oh, we're going to release on March 15th or whatever. But I do agree with you. I think everyone is seeing in the space that DEX can be a really good tool. And lots of smart people are probably scratching their heads and saying, hey, how can I make this work with Bitcoin and with Dash and with other coins, not only Ethereum? Right now, it's on Uniswap and Sushi. It's only about wrapped coins, which is just a representation of the other thing. And it's not really that good. And I know that the Dash Thailand guys are working on some of these technologies. So it's cool to have Dash being represented there. And I'm also going to be looking out for what comes out, and hopefully we'll be able to offer this technology also for Dash. By the way, I haven't tried it, but from what I read, Shapeshift DEX is just the interface.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Shapeshift. I was a user early on.
Yeah.
Back when I was working in Bitso, I remember my colleague next to me used to sit and start changing his coins
Yeah,
from
me too.
Shapeshift to something else, and
Always.
get some arbitrage. So when I met them in LabitConf a few years ago, I was really excited to talk to
Mm-hmm.
them. And yeah, I said, yeah, I was a big fan, a user until, and they kind of interrupted me and said, until we did KYC, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. They were like, yeah. So they're aware of that, and they're pretty cool guys. And their move to start testing out the waters on the DEXs, I think it's just gonna push the ball forward, and hopefully we'll soon see more developments on this. And I'm sure that once you can swap some of that and use Dash and use another coin, it's going to be very obvious that you can get some advantages if you trade with a coin that doesn't cost a fortune to move around.
Yeah, because there's two different ways you introduce friction in trading. One is through regulatory barriers, and which even if you're okay with giving up your ID and stuff, well, just when you sign up for a new account, like I remember one particular one particular case where a friend of mine was a contestant in the Dash Queen app trying to do like a beauty pageant thing, and some of her friends wanted to like donate to help her win the thing, and so they signed up for Uphold, and it took them days to get confirmed. And because I'm sure there's a lot of people who were trying to sign up to Uphold, and then they wanted to buy a whole bunch, but they had like a 2 month waiting period for
Wow.
ACH transfers, and I had the Uphold people on this very podcast. I had Robin O'Connell specifically to talk about that, and it has everything to do with the ACH system being like terrible. But again, just because of the like those kinds of things introduce friction. Once you're past that, or it's like, well, we need you to confirm your ID before we need to do an extra confirmation of something before we do something. There's always that. The other side, but then there's no friction as far as the networks, as far as who sends what to what. It just like it works. On the other side, on the decentralized side, you don't have any of that nonsense, but you do have to deal with the actual sending, receiving, and like the time it takes to confirm. I know on some DEXs, the exchange rate can change. And so by the time it confirms, like you get a different thing back. It's like there's some things like that. Now, the thing about Dash is if you use Dash on a DEX, it should, is if they recognize all special features, it should be instant and it should be really cheap. So that's something that I can really hopefully look forward to. Now, I did Decred, as far as I know, is working on a DEX, and they are extremely similar to Dash in a lot of ways in that they have a proof of work with a staked element hybrid system, and they have a voted treasury and things like that. And so basically, I asked them on Twitter today about like, well, what's the requirement for listing stuff? And basically they said it has to support atomic swaps, and that's about it. Now, I don't know exactly where Dash is with atomic swaps today, but I did poke in right before the podcast into the Dash developer Discord, and there's an atomic swaps channel, and people are working on stuff. So basically, to answer my own Dex question, I think we'll be in good shape soon. What we do have to do is be aggressive about the special features, because like a lot of people are going to really just be like, oh, Dash takes too long, and they wait for like 6 confirmations to get on, and it's like, no, you don't have to do that. But I mean, a lot of people would make a lot of money if that was sort of fixed.
Yeah, yeah, and the instant send and fast deposits and withdrawal conversation with exchanges, I like I understand their fear, because when you're working on an exchange, and I worked on one for a little less than a year, you're always afraid. Like you're like the small deer drinking water off of a pond,
Yeah.
and it's full of crocodiles. Everyone is trying to eat you in there, so they're always preoccupied about hacks, and it's a matter of time passing and us showing that, yeah, you cannot 51% attack Dash with chain locks and with instant send. So the more time passes and the more we stand the test of times, and there were some attacks recently on some coins. I don't remember, but I think earlier this week I was reading something about
Yeah.
another, and it was an Ethereum classic to my surprise. But
Yeah, for once.
yeah, I was like, yeah, again. But no, it wasn't them. So once you the time passes and you can see that our technology holds up, more exchanges will be compelled to lower the amount of confirmations and improve the UX for their users.
Hmm.
So hopefully that'll also trickle down into the people that are building DEXs.
Yeah. Now, speaking of all that, I did just get a message. Cointree needs instant send confirmations. No pending confirmations. Yes, I agree. JJ, Naomi, if you're watching this, we're gonna have to talk about this because that could be a deal breaker. No, not really. I'm still gonna use this. I'm very grateful to Cointree for providing this very free service to just because Google, first off, you have to have 1,000 YouTube subscribers and 4,000 hours, I think, of watch time over the course of a month before they even let you monetize. And then they take 30% or something of every single super chat. So that would be like a lot. That'd be a big chunk of money already. So yeah, no, thank you. So try to like cross off the things on my list. The other thing, there's some question way back there that I'm going to go get back to in a second. But first off, second to last, remittances. What's going on with remittances? So I know that there's been, I remember that CrepPay had this Remestasa program that seemed to work really well, and I don't think it got its fair chance to really work because, as far as I know, the exchange didn't survive the great bear crash of 2018, 2019, and 2020, of course. Even though the bear crash, it just the world crashed. But I forget. I saw something else that there's some other remittance partners and stuff working on, and I also covered in a recent video when I was talking about that basically remittances are one of those holy grail things for crypto, but they're kind of a false holy grail in a certain way because they're amazing. Like crypto's made for remittances, but it's also one of the most difficult things to actually implement because you have to have an easy way for sometimes unbanked people, let's be honest, to buy cryptocurrency, send it, and then the other person sells it on the other side, and somehow the spread, the fees still make it like a savings, and the user experience still like works out. And like and it's one of the bigger nightmares from my concept, right? Of trying to get users to use crypto for remittances unless you just have places they can spend it in the home country, and you have people that can earn it or technical enough to just buy it and use it. So I understand it's like a slow process, but with all the the lockdown stuff making cross-border transactions probably a lot more attractive today, and then all the inflation and all the other regulations and just crypto surging, it probably makes it better than ever as far as like a prospect of how valuable this could be. So what news or anything do you have on the remittance front for Dash?
Yeah. So, well, number one, you described the problems fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
What we've learned, and we've done experiments, and when I say we, it's
Mm-hmm.
not only Dash Core, it's some of the communities, and we share information. If you try, or when you try to do remittances where the sender and the receiver are both dealing with cryptos,
Mm-hmm.
the friction is just massive because you gotta teach uh, Manuel
Mm-hmm.
in Texas to buy crypto, and then you gotta teach Manuel's mom in Oaxaca, Mexico, how to receive crypto and sell it for changing it. So that's not gonna happen. Um, Especially since most of the people that migrate are not necessarily well educated on technology.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we are trying to do now is making it very easy on one or both ends. So, you only need to teach the other part. So, we've gone ahead and we are talking to several organizations a couple of them in the U.S. to Mexico corridor,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them in the South America to Venezuela corridor. And we're reviewing how to make it very easy either to send or to receive crypto so that you only need to worry on one side. That is from the technological and user perspective. And then you get into the legal points. You know, you need to make sure that this industry is very regulated. So you need to make sure that the partners implementing this can have all the licenses and, you know, can comply with all the AML, KYC, the travel rule. So it's funny because that sometimes pushes you back to having to use some of the legacy system. So it's kind of like a loophole. But you know, we have a project that we've been talking to for about 11 months now, and we've moved forward, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, you know, within 2021, we'll be able to have it out and see how we can send some money through Dash into Venezuela. But it's definitely very hard, and because of the hoops you gotta go through, you know, how do you make something that is very easy to understand for the buyer or the receiver, and how do you also make sure that you comply with everything, because having crypto in the middle is not something that they are used to.
Mm-hmm.
So those are basically the limitations, and that is the reason why I see that there's not a whole lot of remittances happening in crypto right now.
Yeah. So, and also, as far as I know, as far as I'd be able to guess, rather, the remittances that are happening in crypto don't show up as remittances because just people sending people money. And
Exactly.
this is a strange way of saying this, but what if CrayPay is a remittance app in disguise? And that's a
Could
little
be.
bit of it sounds a little bit stupid on on the surface, but one of the huge barriers is trying to get both people to get crypto. And it's like, why are you going to buy Dash and then learn it just so you can send it? But if people are like, oh, I'm going to just give this a try, I'm going to go spend it around town. Oh, yeah, I can save a lot of money. Oh, I'm already using it for my little encrypted messenger, my little Twitter, whatever it is. Whatever the other stuff, people are already have a balance of money that they're using to send stuff. And then, like, let's just say you get an area that has a lot of Venezuelan immigrants, and then you have people using Dash on CrayPay just because they're trying to save money, because you know a lot of them might be trying to, you know, cut really low on their expenses, and then they already have it, and then they just figure out how to send it to someone home in Venezuela, and it already solves, like, it already educates one person. It's like you can send remittances, but also you can use it here. So if they start using it on like a regular basis and then they see it go up, hey, this is great, I'm going to see it go up. And then, or hopefully it goes up, right? And then they're using it locally. Now that
To
helps the
500,
like,
right?
yeah, stash to 500, right? And if you tweet it enough, then, you know, then it'll become a remittance solution. So that's another thing. When you have people just hanging out with Dash, then it's just like they're communicating with people back home. And I have to say, like, it's the details of this are obviously pretty sensitive. I might have to talk about that later. But there's some friend was communicating with, you know, with family members in Latin America via WhatsApp, and then has basically a financial transaction coming up in the conversation. And so when you imagine that instead, what if they're communicating via, it's the working name for the Dash messenger was What's DAP, which I think is clever, but it's not a good final name. I want DChat because it's like decentralized chat, but also Dash chat. It's like DChat, but whatever. Let's say they're using this already to communicate, and then it's like, hey, bro, I gotta, you know, oh man, they're gonna go turn off, you know, they're gonna turn off the la luz and stuff. They're gonna hit me, turn off the light. I'm like, I can't pay, and they're like, zap, send you some money right there because this person's already using it. It could be a natural thing. It's just very evolutionary. I'm sure the stuff you're focusing on is more like zero dash to zero dash, and then trying to see where you could find a more efficient solution. But Yeah.
Yeah, or zero dash to a little bit of dash. You just want
Yes.
to make sure that it's very easy. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. The Dash Mall team in
Mm-hmm.
western part of Venezuela, they're working with a technology provider to have some cards where only the sender needs to learn about Dash. Then I'm like, hey Joel, I just
Mm-hmm.
sent you $50 of Dash to your card, and you
Mm-hmm.
can go and spend it either through an NFT technology or
Mm-hmm.
swiping your card. So those type of solutions, I believe, are easier to implement in the beginning. And it goes back. It's funny that we're linking everything back to the CrayPay
Yeah.
conversation, because remember how I mentioned that merchants don't want to deal with a bunch of new stuff. So it's thinking, how can we implement this new revolutionary technology to what's already there, so you don't have to change everything at once. And then once people start using it, you you'll be like, hey, remember that payment I made from the US or from from Europe or from Argentina to here? Yeah, it was done through Dash. So after you are in and people open the door, you'll be able to change a little bit more of the systems that are used for paying. But changing all at once has not been the right approach for remittances in all of crypto. That's why this is something that you don't see only in Dash. I'll give you a quick example.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the remittances that are being sent to Venezuela, part of it are on Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
People are using Bitcoin on the back end, and what's happening is that you take my dollars in the U.S. and send it to my family in Venezuela, and you, Joel, go to local Bitcoins and change it, and then pay everyone's end. Take the dollars, buy Bitcoin, and then take the Bitcoin, sell it for bolivars,
Mm-hmm.
and people are receiving bolivars. But neither the sender or the receiver know, care, or understand that in the middle there is a little bit of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So that understanding, I think, is very important for us to keeping the ball moving forward, and putting more solutions with Dash that can work much better in many other conditions.
Well, so all this is pretty, exciting and motivating and stuff. There was a question from just about an hour ago, actually. Sugar Puffy Puff says, "Hi Ernesto, I have a very specific question. What metrics do you guys gather in order to monitor the progress in terms of a defined strategy? How is it published, and is something like that? Is it something that can be made available on the Dash website, for example, as live metrics?" So that's basically a two-part question. The first is, how do you keep track of whether a strategy is working or not? And second, is there a way that this could be publicly available, or is that even useful?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and it's been a big problem for all of crypto. What
Mm-hmm.
we've done is when we make an integration, let's say with an exchange or with a payments processor, we include into the agreement that they will share with us the transaction metrics. So what we see is that, for example, we integrated into Whitebit, and we ask them to share information. What's the number of trades they're getting? What's the amount of Dash that's been deposited and withdrawn? And also, we got into an agreement with Into the Block that is building tracking of Dash tool, so that you can see what's the volume that's going in and out of exchanges. And Into the Block will be public whenever it's out.
Mm-hmm.
And the information for the exchanges, sometimes it's public, and other times they keep it private. So that's how we see if what we're doing is good. And of course, there's the big difficulty, because when the price of Dash shoots up, then everybody wants to go and buy Dash, and you see more volume. So we are working on seeing, how it plays out, and how we can equalize the volume to the price and see it. And um, payments measurement is much easier, because it's as easy as asking Church's Chicken, hey, how many Dash transactions did you have? I'll
Yeah.
give you a quick example. I think it was last November, there was an activity that we organized with Church's Chicken, and Dash Help went there to sell Dash. So you could buy Dash and then acquire a affordable combo, not subsidized, in
Mm-hmm.
Church's Chicken, and the transaction count went through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
They sold more than 1,000 combos over the weekend, and that was like 80% of all the sales they made. So that
Hmm.
was like, well, cool. We found a way that people are willing to get and use Dash. So that's something we're gonna keep repeating, and that's how we measure if these things are good. And of course, sometimes the retailers are willing to share information and make it public, and other times they're like, no, I cannot. I'll tell you that I'm getting 1% or 5% of transactions in crypto, but you cannot disclose this. So it's all a matter of who is working with us. But yeah, that's how we measure if something is good or bad, and adjust it.
Yeah, and so especially in a decentralized blockchain like this, it's hard. It's really hard to figure that
You
stuff out.
cannot. Yeah, you
Now,
cannot do it on the blockchain. You can't.
now what I think will be probably a key component, obviously, transaction volume and stuff like that has to be self-reported by a lot of exchanges. Another thing as far as adoption teams, and this is especially more like Dash Core Group's business development department has a little bit more like leeway to just like, have a job and then work your job and do well at it. And it's a little bit, it's not quite like people who would just submit a proposal, say, I can help. And then they just say, well, we've been doing well. It's like, well, have you been? And there's been, in specifically recently in the case of Dash Nigeria, some people were asking, well, how are we going to be sure that you're even doing a good job in the region? And it's always it's a communication problem of like communicating results or even measuring them. But so for example, let me talk about some of my like I doing this podcast and then all the videos and stuff on this channel, I have a few metrics that I can go off of. Uh, for example, views, like live viewers, but also views on YouTube, views on library slash Odysee, which is the big thing I promote. Views on listens to slash downloads on the audio only podcast version. There's like that's and then of course I release little snippets on YouTube and on like Twitter and Facebook of like longer podcast episodes. I can just so I can see reach, and then also for example, whenever someone uses my code DCN to sign up for a Bitrefill account, I not only get notified when someone does that, but then I get paid when they spend $50 or more. And then same thing when someone uses the code to sign up to library slash Odysee. If they go through the whole verification process and get eligible for rewards, then I get a little bit of money from that. And then when people sign up to Presearch, same thing. And so I have this like collection of metrics of like, for example, I tweeted out, was it yesterday or something, that I got 493 people to sign up to and investigate library. And so over the last under
Wow.
a year. So I mean, that's just for people clicking the link. I'm sure more did it and just didn't click my link and do through my specific referral code. Like, but that's a minimum. And then I'll have to figure out the other metrics. And so I would love pretty soon to have to start running little Dash specific ads on the show that just says get your free Dash username for the first, and then there's some little bit of a KYC kind of process on that, and just to make sure there's no fraud or whatever you guys decide to do, and then I could just say I got 180 people to get a Dash username, and here's my metrics to prove it, kind of thing, and then you can just see, okay, well, this many people watching this podcast did this many people this, and you can start to like piece together metrics, and then or at the same time it's like you have a strategic partnership with an exchange, like say someone in let's just say someone starts like a Dash Mexico thing, and then they have a special engage, basically they just say, give me money to go promote Dash. I'm going to measure this in like verified signups for these exchanges. Like someone signs up for, Bitso, let's say Bitso in the future accepts Dash. I sign up for Bits. I get someone to sign up for Bitso and buy at least, 1,000 pesos worth of Dash. And then it gets, then all of a sudden they get paid for that. or they get a little sign up or something, and then you get to just basically make the proof of that. And so it's not 100% of a perfect metric, but if you can provide company based proof that you got people to buy a certain amount of Dash or spend a certain amount of Dash in the bit refill case, that's something you can track and kind of add. And obviously, those don't necessarily need to align with Dash Core Group's methodology of doing this, but there's a lot of other projects that can kind of use this to sort of figure that out. So that's sort of, I guess, covers some of the ways you can track metrics of this thing in a hypothetical sort of a way.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also some things that are public and that you can share. Let me share my screen really quickly.
Okay.
Last November or October, we announced a partnership. Like finally, we were out on local cryptos. So
Yes.
here is local cryptos, and we worked with them to help them grow in Venezuela. So just to give you an example, Dash is the newest market there, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 offers for Dash. If you compare that to Litecoin, for example, which is a bit older, you'll see that Litecoin has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 offers. So, we were launched after Litecoin and we have almost the same amount of offers. And if you compare it to Ethereum, of course, ETH should have much more, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 offers. So, well, this is because it stops at 10. But anyways, if you go through the offers, you'll be able to see how you're stacking up to the competition, and you'll see whether the effort that you're doing is good or not. So those are some of the metrics that we use to review how good or not so good something is doing. And in the case of local cryptos, they also shared some more data, and we're there. It's interesting because maybe we don't see it that clearly, but when you compare Dash to the performance of top 5, top 6 coins, we're right up there with them. So it goes up to, there is utility in Dash, and when you make it easy for people to use, they will choose Dash because, low fees, it's available. You can buy Dash with Bolivars and then go and spend it. You can receive a payment in Dash and then cash out in local cryptos. So yeah, the first thing was to have the platform there, and now we're going to work more on increasing liquidity so the spreads will be lower. And yeah, the future is 2021 is going to be even better than 2020 for the adoption of Dash.
Absolutely. And I'm actually seeing some of that. Like you said, that you could prove that by looking at network stuff. So I did tweeted the other day, Dash was around 35 to 40,000 transactions a day. And it was around a little over 100 USD per coin. It's a little bit more than that now. And I looked back to mid June of 2013, and Bitcoin at that time was about the exact same amount of transactions and the exact same market cap. And so it's like a lot of people, the markets are very irrational sometimes because there's a lot of hype on the price, but some things aren't that irrational. Some things are just Bitcoin wasn't that hyped in mid 2013. It wasn't until you saw the big spike at the end of that, and then going into 2016, 2017 and beyond, you saw a little bit of a decoupling from the uses of money as a mean of payments, and just pure speculation / store value / whatever else you want to say. So things are going pretty well, and then when you see big transaction spikes, usually like a giant spike, usually someone's stress testing. But today the transactions are over 70,000. And more importantly, the other metric I look is median transaction value, which is what you'd expect a typical payment to be on the network. And typically recently it's been around 15 USD. So it's that seems like, you're buying lunch or something like that. That's like a typical transaction. There's a lot less valuable, a lot more valuable. So when this big spike happened, Now the median transaction value is much higher, it's up to like 25 or something like that dollars, meaning that all these new transactions, a lot of them are higher value transactions. So that's like either, more people are buying like $25 things, but probably it's a lot of like the upper values. Like
Yeah,
a lot of people are getting in, like buying Dash or moving it around or whatever. And so it is
yeah, you
interesting.
see that with the trading. I'm sorry, the
Yes.
big traders, they move large quantities, and then the medium just
Yeah.
squeezes to the left.
Yeah, so that's what we're starting to see is like a lot of like value movements on Dash in the last couple of days. And of course, who knows if that's going to be consistent, but basically the frustrations a lot of people have been experiencing around Dash over the last couple years have been that Dash has been left behind by the hype scene. Now, hopefully, with platform coming out and usernames, we get a whole bunch of stuff. And of course, there's a big announcement somewhere at the end of the month that maybe should help with that. But the concern has been that like, oh, Dash has been left behind on that stuff, and therefore it's going to go to zero or it's going to like die or something. But like the thing is, those things come and go. They come and go, and there's so many coins that just aren't anywhere. And like I remember in 2017, early 2017, I think Litecoin's transactions were trending downward. Like they was getting less and less use. And then Charlie Lee got on Coinbase, and then Bitcoin stopped scaling properly and things like that. And then all of a sudden transactions have now been going up, since then. And so imagine having like a dying coin that just like usage is trending down. But people forget that when Dash was like $1,000 or more, there was like 8 to 10,000 transactions a day. So we're
Yeah,
like 4 times that, right? We're like 4 times that, 5 times that, even more. And it's like that's something you can't really just like make go away. That's not, yeah, people lose interest. It's like that's real growth. And eventually the real growth is going to push up. Maybe it doesn't push up how high the coin goes, but it does push up how low it goes. And it kind of adds that like that floor of the price floor, because there's constant demand as an actual currency. And so as far as we've been able to tell, everything seems to be going according to plan.
yeah. I mean, it's it's funny because price speculation is good because it provides resources to the projects,
Mm-hmm.
but it's bad because it's very hypey.
Mm-hmm.
People come for price, and then when price decreases, people might not be as interested. But when you start, that's why it's important to develop real use cases, because if you're sending money to grandma wherever she is, it doesn't matter if the price is 1 or 1 million, you're going to keep on sending it because this is the best, fastest, and cheapest way to send money. So that amount of usage will be a base for everything else that is built on top. And yeah, hype can come and go, but real usage will remain. And that's why we're working on, a lot of these very strategic actions. And, like I said, 2021 is going to keep on pushing Dash for more
Mm-hmm.
usage, for more real utility. And I'm really excited to, finally bring out some of these integrations that we've been working on.
Well, that kind of is a good place to start wrapping up. Before we get into all that, there's something that came in the mail today, which was very nice. A lot of people
Oh,
have this now, but now I do too. So this is a Dash whiskey set. So let me just
yeah.
get out this stuff. And this was, there's some random dude on the Discord that was talking about this. And after a couple people ordered these, I decided to give it a shot. And it's the Instagram and Twitter handle is cryptogifts_en, I believe. But you could find a bunch of stuff like that. The guy does take Dash, of course, directly. And he's been very, very good customer service. So there's some whiskey stones in the thing. I'm not a big whiskey stone guy, so I'm not gonna like care about it. But anyway, it has the whole, little engraving on the box there. The coaster that comes with it is like a Dash logo, right?
Yeah.
And then it's on the glass as well. So safe to
Cool.
say, in the after party, I will be using that thing. So that's a good time to
Cool.
mention all that stuff. Uh, Obviously, if you like this, please make sure you hit the like button. share this, smash for dash, all the above. Share, like, comment, share, subscribe. All those 4 really help. If you like what I do, you can, of course, donate via the Cointree link. That doesn't just have to happen during live shows. It's just more fun when it does happen during live shows. And as always, if you're trying to spend Dash now and you can't wait for CrayPay to come out, or you want to do stuff like pay your phone bill, use BitRefill, code DCN, all capitals. I just learned that the underscore doesn't work, that it doesn't work at all, so you have to do capitals. I'll have to yell at them for that. But anyway, now it's time for what we call the after party, which is a nice conversation like this, but it's not recorded, and it's as many people as you want. And yeah, you're going to let me see, test run the old glass over here. So the way you get there is you go into the Dash Discord. I used to call it the Dash Talk Discord because for a while there was 2 different Discords, but Dash Nation, one of those 2, has decided to shut down and redirect all people to Dash Talk. And it's not going to be called Dash Talk for very much longer. I believe we're going to have a new name, but let's just call it the Dash Discord. You go to staydashy.com, and that's how you get into the Discord, and then you just start asking around. Hey, what's the after party? I want to get into the after party. Or anywhere to contact me personally. Like, say, if you're watching this on Twitter or Facebook, you can message me there. If you're on YouTube, I don't know. You don't really do DMs on YouTube, but you can look at the desert links on Twitter, at anywhere. You can pretty much hit me up there. I'd love to be able to say, hit me up on the Dash Chat app using my at the desert links Dash handle, but we'll have to wait for that. So, any last words, Ernesto?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out at Ernesto Contreras in Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned before, I'm very bullish on what's coming for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of great developments happening in Venezuela. More big supermarkets and shops will come out as a result of Megasoft and CryptoBuyer.
Mm-hmm.
On the trading side, we're enabling more and more services for traders to use the FastPass. And, all that we spoke about evolution, about Dash platform, will help to bring even more usage and more innovation to Dash. So it's not only about the technology, it's also about the usage, and all of this with the strategy. And of course, all of the great teams that make up the DAO. I'm sure we're going to be, that hashtag is going to fall short.
Nice. Well, this is going to be an exciting year. Dash may or may not catch the huge hype pump that sort of happened towards the end of the year, but it's definitely catching more wind and more development and more awesome things happening. Everything just about gives me hope for the future, and I'm looking around the space. There's a lot of awesome things being developed outside of Dash, but there's just something special about the way Dash is doing stuff. Because believe me, if I saw something cooler happening somewhere else, I would be starting the X coin, whatever coin podcast as well, and just be running on that stuff constantly. But something keeps bringing me back to Dash, and it's not nostalgia. I keep on using it, and there's a reason I keep on using it, and there's a reason I keep everywhere else that I like stuff happening. There's some red flags that are unanswered that Dash does have answered. So my honest opinion, take it or leave it. You could say, well, you're the guy with the Dash shirt on and the Dash thing on the wall and the little Dash, Dash alcoholism or whatever. But yeah, come on, whatever. You see the rest of the stuff I put out anyway. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Digital Cash Rundown next week. Also, please let me know if you want that to be a weekly thing. And then I conveniently made it an hour before the Dash podcast, so in case I have to do it every week, I can wrap it up and roll right into this one. So anyway, let me know, guys. Thanks a bunch, Ernesto, and I will see you guys next week.